Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So thank you everybody for coming to our third Startup Grind, featuring Mitchell Patterson. Another great crowd, a lot of new people, some repeats. It's great to see everybody. We have a really good event planned, and I wanted to give Jess a chance to explain DIG a little bit. If you haven't been here before, it's a really great space. It's changing the way Buffalo does business, the way people in Buffalo do business. And she's walking away. Jess. And here she is. So the space, Startup Grind is very grateful for this space, and Jess is going to explain a little bit more about it if you're not familiar with DIG.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica. I'm the curator here. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. I see a lot of familiar faces, but for anyone new, DIG stands for Design Innovation Garage, and it is a co-working startup incubator. So the idea behind it is affordable rent for startups, and also we have day passes and flex passes for people to come in, pitch their idea, try to get it off the ground. We have mentors, which are called mechanics, and a lot of access to resources. So end goal is help startups grow and thrive in here so they become big, thriving brick and mortars in Buffalo, make Buffalo better. So if you want a tour, come see me. First day in DIG is free if you want to try it out, and I hope everyone enjoys the Startup Grind. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. So before we start the Startup Grind, we have a couple of 1-minute pitches for entrepreneurs, and then Clark, who's a Buffalo entrepreneur, if you don't know him, we're working on something pretty cool, so I wanted to give Clark a minute to kind of explain what we're working on.
So the last Tuesday of October, which is the 27th or 28th, we're hosting an event called Startup Scramble. It's tentatively scheduled to be all along Allen Street in all the venues, and it's basically going to be like a mini South by Southwest. So music, art, culture, and celebrating entrepreneurship and startups. So if you're interested in helping organize, get in contact with me. If not, please attend.
When's that going to be?
It's the last Tuesday in October. 28th.
Startup
Yes. BuffaloStartupScramble.com is the website.
Awesome. We are going to have a couple of 1-minute pitches, but before we do that, I want to give a shout out to John Spitz and 43 North. Buffalo's been in the news a lot recently. 43 North, it really is disruptive and game-changing, and every time I see something about it, I'm excited. So thank you, John. Thank you, 43 North. And great work from 43 North. So we are going to have some entrepreneurs come up and just do a quick 1-minute pitch. And the idea behind this is just to get entrepreneurs in front of an audience, get their elevator pitch down, and build that sense of Buffalo community. So we're going to have Greg, Redline Rentals. It's going to be our first entrepreneur.
All right, thank you. So my name is Greg Strauss. I'm the co-founder of Redline Rentals of Buffalo. My partner, Matt Bowen, is in the back with me. So what we did is we basically thought, how can we have some fun? Who likes to have fun, right? Everybody. And when you want to have some fun, there's a couple ways you can do it. But we figured, being car guys our whole life, said let's have a way to have fun with some cool cars. So what we did is we put together a business plan and did all the bank items, and basically put together a business that we launched in May, mimicking stuff that exists around the country, in Las Vegas, New York City, Toronto. It's a business that exists, and we brought it to Buffalo. We're now operating, renting Porsche 911 Turbos, Chevy Corvettes, Dodge Challenger. As the fleet grows, we'll hopefully even have higher-end cars to allow people just to have a little bit of fun, live a little. And when we were going into it, we thought, we're going to get a bunch of men that are in their midlife and they just want to go rent a car, right? That's what we thought. Well, it was actually cool because what's turning out to be the case is actually it's becoming a big gift idea. Anniversaries, birthdays, and people are coming together just saying, I want to have some fun for the night. I can rent the car, I give it back to you, I don't have to worry about it. So if you want to have a fun time in the town, come talk to me. We're partnering with restaurants, do packages, hotels, and we're getting the word out there that we really exist. So thanks for listening to me, and if you want to go fast and take chances, give me a call.
John? Oh, right here. With Vidbolt.
First of all, I'd just like to say this is my first time here at Startup Grind Buffalo. It's a terrific event, though. So I'd like to say, could we please give a round of applause to Even and the organizers, and also to Jess, the organizer of Dig. I don't know if she's disappearing. All right. So hi there. I'm John Hutchinson. I'm the co-founder of Vidbolt.com. What is Vidbolt? Vidbolt is social video. What we've basically done is take Twitter and YouTube and try to combine them together in one place. We have our site, vidbolt.com, up right now, and you can view and add comments alongside the video as it's playing. In addition, we bolt those comments to when you made them in the video, so you can jump to the hot conversations and also to the remarkable moments in the video without having to search for them. So the next time you want to share a moment, maybe it's your celebration with your loved ones, or maybe it's going to be when the Bills win the Super Bowl, try using Vidbolt. I think you're going to love it. Now, we're working with PBS, WNED TV, we're working on our mobile app. If you want more information about Vidbolt, come talk to me, John Hutchinson, or email me at john@vidbolt.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Jake and Kevin, were you third, or Chris? Well, we'll do Jake and Kevin. Just come on. I had a batting order lined up, but I forgot.
Hi, I'm Jake Brindell, co-founder of Socivo, and we're all about the next social evolution. My co-founder, Kevin Kelly, is back there. Basically, we're developing an app for nightlife. So the name of our company, The Social Evolution, is geared towards how we can extend social networks, or social networks that you guys might use. So with our app, we're not really a social network, we're a social evolution. You log in with your social network and you're instantly connected with all your friends. You can see what they're doing tonight. And what we do is, we're a location-based app, so you log in and you can see events and venues around you. And what we do is, we kind of tell you where everyone's going that night. So you can then plan your night out according to that. We just launched our beta, which is on our website right now. If you want to go and check it out, it's socivo.com. That's SOCIEVO. It's really hard to spell, but it was the only domain that was free. So, yeah, if you want to check us out, we're socivo.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, or just email me at jakebrindell@socivo.com. But thanks for having this event. It's really great. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jake.
Chris with the team. Sorry, I skipped you in the batting order.
Hi, my name is Chris Way. I'm with the Atinga Project. That's ATINGA, and it could be a lot worse, so I promise you that. We work with artisan shoemakers in Rwanda, and also some artisans here locally in Buffalo. I and a team of individuals kind of got our launch last October at Startup Weekend, where we got third place, and the first and second place winners, one of them here tonight, were generous enough to give us their legal and web services. So everything is lined up, and this summer's our inaugural season. We're selling sandals at atingaproject.com. We really could use your help. Whether you're a sandal fan or not, there's a little bit more to it than just sandals. We delayed our Kickstarter campaign a little bit here in order to try to bulk up on our pre-orders. So if anybody you know is maybe a fan of Tom's shoes, or kind of post-Tom's shoes, or just a fan of, let's say, giving and helping third world countries, learning a little bit more about how we can help in the West, then I really encourage you to visit the website or pass it on. We're trying to meet a threshold of pre-orders before we can launch our campaign. And again, they work with recycled taxi tires to make these sandals. So we have both an environmental and a social benefit. On our first trial order, it was our first order just a month ago, we sold $230 worth, and 30% of that, which isn't much, it's $23, went right back to the artisans. It's called a D for D. Tom's does a 1-for-1, and we're a lot different. We're flip side, opposite side of the coin. We do a D for D. It's direct impact. A lot of studies show that the poor know best how to manage their money and make decisions in their own communities. So that kind of model, that business model as a social enterprise, is something that sets us apart, and we just really encourage you to walk with us, learn with us, and walk a mile in their shoes. Thanks.
I can attest that they are very comfortable sandals. I didn't think so at first, being made out of tires. Dave. Dave with Buffalo Bottlecraft.
All right, I had about 3 Red Bulls, so we'll see how this will go. My name is Dave Sheffield. I own Buffalo Bottlecraft. I operate out of the foundry, which is just down the road, and I'm a member here at DIG. So my main product right now is a bottle opener made out of a real hockey puck. And I manufacture them all here in Buffalo. As I've started the business in January, kind of developed the products for a few months and then started selling them in April. I've got up to $20,000 in sales so far, so it's kind of taken off, and it shows you you can do manufacturing in the U.S. A lot of people have come up to me and said, well, you can do it in China for $1, but I'm trying to keep it locally in Buffalo because this is where you create jobs, this is where I live. And next steps is probably going after some NHL licensing. It's a big step. It'll be a lot of work, but imagine if this had a Sabres logo on it. That's the kind of the response I get when I show it to people. That's freaking cool. So that's kind of the validation that's kind of keep me going. And I'm selling them online and locally in a bunch of different stores and trying to branch out nationally. So website's buffalobottlecraft.com. So thanks for setting this up.
They make great gifts. Harry. This will be the last one we pitch. I don't think I skipped anybody.
I'm last like an hour. First of all, I'm a member at DIG, and I've been here about 2.5 months, and I'm telling you, it's been fantastic. Best thing I ever did. My name is Harry W. Carden. I run Harry W. Carden and Associates. Basically, I'm leveraging 35 years of business experience and 35 years of teaching experience and bringing it back to the small business owner, providing small business coaching. The coaching is designed to work with you to look at your business from beginning to end. I'm not a marketing specialist, I'm not a manufacturing specialist, even though I have backgrounds in all those areas, but I want you to work with you to help you guide through the business growth and cycle. I teach a course called Financial Controls for Small Business at UB. I wrote the textbook for it, and I've had my students interview probably 115 small business owners. Some of the answers I get back are amazing. Such things, if you're not an accountant, this may not make sense, but what's your gross margins? Don't know what those are. What's your EBITDA? Don't know what that is. How do you determine your price? I guess. So building that strategies around marketing, pricing, cost strategies, tax strategies. One small business owner said, I don't have any overhead. Well, you got to have overhead. I don't care if we're working in a cave, you got to have overhead. So what I bring to that game is, during my time, I did run small businesses. I ran 4 small businesses, Buffalo, St. Louis, Columbus, Boston, 5, Memphis. And each one was like 1.7 to about $7.2 million in sales. Every one that I touched went to gold. I understand business from a penny basis. I know business from marketing strategies, etc. So what I want to offer everybody at DIG today is, because I'm new here, So I want to offer something to everybody is, if anybody's interested in speaking to a small business coach, I'm offering 2 hours of free coaching, free. It's my way of just learning about your business. It'd be a nice way if all 50 or 60 of you pick up on this, I'll be a very busy person for 2 hours at least. So I offer that to you. Again, you can reach me at DIG. I have my business cards if you want to get one from me at the end of the meeting. And I'd love to work with you and talk about your business. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Owen. Peter, you want Infotech?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Last month I asked everybody here, I asked, who here knows what Infotech Niagara is? Can you raise your hand again? Last month, those who didn't raise their hand who were supposed to come and see me, you didn't do your homework. I didn't see anything. That breaks my heart. So let me tell you something. Infotech has been around for 15 years. We have done many supporting programs like Startup Grind. We have helped Bar Camp Buffalo. Steve Poland knows that. Startup Weekend, John Spitz knows that. We've helped with UB Hackathon and the Buffalo I.O. Dan Mashevsky knows this. And we do a lot of things that help foster good things like these events to happen. And what I want to just share with you is take down some ideas. If you can go to our website, we have all this on there. But in September, we have the Civic Apps Challenge. That is a huge challenge. $18,000 is going to be given up for a company or an idea that is helping with civic challenges within our with a mobile app, if you will. We have the Nickel City Ruby Conference coming up, which we're also a part of, October 3rd through the 5th. What a great scripting language. We have our annual meeting, the Infotech annual meeting at Resurgence Brewing Company on October 15th. And then October 21st, Technology and Homeland Security Forum, which is free up at the Seneca Niagara Casino and Hotel. Of course, one of my favorites, Startup Weekend here in DIG, October 24th through 26th. The Startup Scramble, which we're behind on October 28th. The Bright Buffalo Niagara Semifinals Meetup on October 29th. And of course, 43 North's finals on October 30th. There is a lot of stuff going on. Infotech is definitely involved in a lot of that, and we'd love to see more of you there. The Beta Awards, several people here have won some of the awards. It's an amazing event every year. We've been doing it for 15 years, and we really love to have your support and just be there. And just you showing up here shows how much you care about what's going on in Buffalo and the tech and startup community. So thank you very much. And over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Sincerely, Infotech is a great organization for Buffalo, and now we're going to move into the actual startup grind. So Mitchell Patterson is our guest. I'm really excited. He came from Syracuse, New York. So thank you for making the trip out here. At least the weather was halfway decent. It's a little cold, but so a little background on Mitchell. Mitchell has been operating, advising, or investing in technology companies in New York State since 2008. Most recently, he served as a managing director for emerging businesses at Center State CEO and the co-director for the Syracuse Technology Gardens. He's also been involved in Startup Weekend. He brought Startup Weekend to Syracuse and helped spread it to upstate New York. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are all excited. Hopefully you didn't drink too many beers, too many Red Bulls. Maybe they balance each other out. So let's welcome Mitchell Patterson to the stage for Startup Grind, Buffalo. Good to be back up here. It's been a month. So when I mentioned that you were coming to Startup Grind and that you're a venture capitalist, my girlfriend said, like, venture capital, isn't that the credit card? So I guess, what is a venture capitalist, and what does a venture capitalist do?
Most people don't believe I have a real job, I think. Venture capital, I mean, in a nutshell, we invest in early stage, high risk companies that typically can't get a bank loan, can't do anything like that. So we travel around, we talk to people, we look for emerging technology companies, and specifically, we look for ones willing to sell, 10, 15% of their company in exchange for cash and assistance from us. And in exchange, our hope is that, 4 or 5 years, we sell them for 10 times what they're worth when we put money into them.
So how did you get involved with venture capital or entrepreneurs, or how did you end up where you are now?
I don't have the typical resume. Like my partner at Armory Square Ventures is an MIT undergrad, Columbia MBA. He sort of like looks like a venture capitalist and sounds like one. I was a political science and history major. I went and worked for a few senators, did some campaign fundraising, stuff like that. I was working 75, 80-hour weeks and hated my life. Love government, love politics. I'll talk about it if anyone wants to talk politics, but not really that interested in like working for government anymore. So I decided I started running campaigns. I started helping organize multiple campaigns and fundraising for multiple elected officials, and then came back upstate. Was doing this across for a lot of congressmen, assemblymen, senators. And then literally kind of bumped into a guy who was like, we're looking for someone younger. I was 24 at the time, who could help us, start working with early stage companies, and we need to help raise some money for that. So I started helping raise money for that, and then just decided like, well, I'll just do this. How's that sound? So slowly worked into managing a $5 million IP commercialization fund in Syracuse. I managed the Tech Garden, which was a 35,000 square foot incubator. One of my best friends was one of the founders of Startup Weekend, so I've been to way too many Startup Weekends. And slowly started doing that, and then at some point decided to launch a venture fund.
Real quick, you mentioned Startup Weekend, and if you haven't been to a Startup Weekend, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most intense, fun, interesting experiences, and like we said, it's going to be here October 24th and 25th. Why do you think Startup Weekend is special, or, if you're not familiar with Startup Weekend, it's you form a company in 54 hours and try to launch it, and maybe talk about some of your favorite competitions or any moments that stand out, or why do you think Startup Weekend has been successful? They've spread all over globally, and
Yeah, so Startup Weekend was started in 2007. A few guys in Boulder, Colorado decided they were going to try and start a company over a weekend. So they sold 150 tickets, ended up trying to get 150 people to work together and start a company. It was a horrible failure. They did that a couple times, and then actually what ended up happening, oddly enough, was two of the guys that had attended those asked to join the team. So suddenly they had a team of guys. They started doing them in other cities and stuff. And what they realized, it was better to have people start their own companies and have multiple opportunities happening at the same time. So you try and start 10 to 15 companies. And I think this year alone, they are on pace to do over 1,000 startup weekends around the United States alone. They've done it in 100 plus countries. Saudi Arabia, Africa, I mean, anywhere you go, everyone knows what Startup Weekend is. It's a great event. You show up on Friday, you have some beers, you loosen up a little bit, and then there's a keynote speaker, people come up and pitch an idea. You have 60 seconds to pitch an idea, so it's what am I doing, what's the name of the idea, and how am I changing the world? And everyone in the room then votes on all those ideas, and the top ideas then get chosen to be worked on over the weekend. So if your idea was picked, you have to go around and look for people to complement your skill set. So if you're a developer, you need a business guy. If you're a marketing guy, you need a developer and a business guy, and vice versa. If you're not picked, you now have to go lobby to try and get on one of the teams that was picked. The idea of a Startup Weekend, while there has been, I think, 35 companies created that have raised over $1 million in venture capital, is not to start a company. It's more about the experiential learning and the networking opportunity. I mean, I've worked with the Startup Weekend guys in Buffalo for years now, and I actually know a ton of people in the room basically because of Startup Weekend. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to find out what it's like to work in a startup atmosphere, and you get to do it in 54 hours.
yeah, highly recommended. All right, so Armory Square Ventures, that's what you're working on now. Talk about how that came about. Why does Armory Square Ventures exist? What are you looking to do?
So I've been back upstate, doing this for a few years, And one of the issues that I've come across over and over again is that we've had, I was writing 150K checks, and some of these companies were raising 250, 500,000, 750, even like $1 million. What ended up happening was suddenly they needed to raise 3 million, they needed to raise 4 million, they needed to raise 10 million. And there was just nowhere for them to get capital in upstate New York. So one of the best deals I ever made, I gave them their first check, is now in San Jose. They've raised 32 million. There's another company that I invested in that had to move to Stamford, Connecticut because they raised 4.9 million. A company that I helped actually like counsel from 3 students just raised 3.5 million, and they raised 1.2 prior to that. They're in New York City. So what was happening was we were incubating companies, and then when they were ready to, go big time, like some investor from San Francisco or New York or Boston would call them like, hey, I got 3 million for you, but you have to pick up and move here. So we were struggling trying to find ways like that, ways to solve it, and sort of kind of pitched it until a few board members about 12 months ago came up to me and said, yeah, let's do this. So we literally sat down in a room and like with some attorneys and hammered out what it would look like, and then like passed the hat around. It was like, everyone, well, what would you be in? And suddenly we had $8 million. And I was kind of surprised. I like didn't know what to do, and I was like, well, I'm 28, so I should not be running this. But who do we know that can? So we actually, I went down to New York and just spent a few months down there talking to junior partners and principals from all these venture capital funds that were very successful, and kind of said, like, hey, would you want to lead your fund and, start this high risk, fund in upstate New York with me? And one of the guys was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I mean, he's got an amazing track record, 15 years in the VC industry down in New York. And as soon as he came up here, just started looking to raise money. We closed in April, and we've got, I can't, for SEC purposes, tell you how much money I actually have in the bank. But I will tell you it took 239 meetings to get to that. So if you're raising money, it's tough. But hopefully, now we have an opportunity to invest in upstate companies. But on top of that, my partner and I have spent a lot of time in New York. We've invested in New York. We've lived in New York. We've worked in New York. We've been talking to investors in New York who see this as an opportunity to actually invest in upstate companies and keep the company upstate, where a dollar goes a lot further than invest in the company and force them to move to New York, where a programmer triples in cost and your rent quadruples in cost.
You mentioned raising money. So when an entrepreneur is just starting out, it's kind of a daunting task. This was for me when you see this company raise $1 million. How do you get to that stage? What are some of the different ways that you can raise money? Specifically, what's the difference between venture capitalists, angel investors? How do I get to a point where I can knock on your door and say, I need $1 million?
I think this is changing in the new world of venture capital raising. Typically, you'll see a chart and, your first $25,000, $50,000, you kind of go to every one of your buddies and, your grandma and, like, can I have some money? They give you some money and you get your company started. And then sort of you get this second stage where you need, $125,000, $250,000, $500,000. And there's angel networks. There's one locally that has done a ton of investing locally. So you go to them and they can help sort of bridge that gap to get you to a proof of concept, to get you to a prototype, a product, get you some revenue. Another alternative to angel networks is accelerators, Techstars, Y Combinator, Dream It, Entrepreneurs Roundtable. There's like 300 of these things right now. June 14th, I was asked to say this, Start Fast Demo Day in Syracuse if you want to come see one of the accelerators. June 13th is Sandbox Demo Day, which is a SU incubator. August, yeah, I'm sorry. So on top of that, you sort of get to this next point where you do have to raise more money. It's like, you've got traction, you've proven a market exists, you've got a product. You don't actually have to have revenue, but it would help. And that's when you sort of like, you'll raise a Series A is what everyone says, and you'll go out and raise 1 million, 1.5 to $2.5 million. And that's when you go to institutional investors. At the same time, angel investors can invest in this world. And if you go to San Francisco, there's some guys wealthy enough that they can actually be angels beyond institutional investors. But so you go friends and family, you go seed, angel, venture capital, and then you have your IPO in 5 years and you're worth $5 billion.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here, right? So you mentioned some of the companies you've invested in, started in upstate New York and have gone to these other places. Did you ever consider starting a VC fund in a different city, a more traditional tech hub?
Yeah, I mean, I almost moved to San Francisco 2 years ago when a fund offered me a job. So I have thought about it. I think there's a unique opportunity in upstate New York. What's happened is San Francisco, Silicon Valley, New York, Boston has sort of gotten expensive. There's sort of like venture inflation taking place. So in 2010, you gave $1 million to a company on a $4 million pre. That just means afterwards you add the money up, it's worth $5 million, so you got 20% of the company. 2 years later, 2012, suddenly you were given $3 million on a $7 million pre. And now, it's $4 million, and a Series A is $10 million, or they're raising $10 million at times. And the companies in 4 years have not gotten 4 times better, but there's more money in the market. The West Coast investors are investing in New York now. They've had some successes, so people sort of are starting to feel like they're a little, well, so-and-so raised at that value, so I'm worth more than that. And that makes it harder for the investor to make money, because now I got to sell you for 5 times, more than I would have sold you for 2 years ago, because I didn't get as much stock in the company, and you actually don't make out as well. That's sort of been happening, and New York, upstate, you sort of have, it's a bit of an inefficient market. There are all the elements that you have in a Silicon Valley or New York City, but we're all spread out. We all don't know each other that well, so it's really an opportunity for a few of us to work together and sort of like matchmake and find these companies, find these people, fund these companies, grow these companies up here, and still get, still do it at a lower valuation, and actually sort of, selfishly in my way, have proprietary deal flow. At the same time, a lot of the New York City investors now are, calling me saying, well, what are you seeing up there? Is there anything to invest in? So, best case scenario is they all want to invest up here. Unfortunately, I also consider that a worst case scenario, because then in 5 years, all the companies are going to be expensive and I'll have to go find somewhere else to invest. That's the hope.
Sometimes you see entrepreneurs become venture capitalists or start investing in companies after they've kind of had a successful entrepreneur exit. What are the benefits of being a VC after you've been an entrepreneur, or being a VC and not being an entrepreneur? What are some of the differences or benefits?
Well, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur who's successfully exited a company, now you're investing, you know the game better than anybody else. You've done it. So that's just an experience thing. You've seen a company grow from $0 to $40 million in revenue. You've raised, 50, 60, so some of these guys have raised $250, $300 million in venture capital funding. So they know what it's like. They know the investors. They know the game. They've got friends who have been CTOs and CMOs and CEOs of these companies that they can then plug into their companies. So in that way, you sort of like earn respect just by doing it. Being a non-entrepreneur, I don't think if you haven't started a company, you're not an entrepreneur. I think being entrepreneurial means you're a good problem solver. And that's pretty much my definition of what an entrepreneur is. So I see entrepreneurial people within companies that are doing innovative things, but they may not be doing their own startup somewhere. But at the same time, you don't really have to see what it's like to live on ramen noodles for 6 months. You didn't really have to go out and fundraise. I had the benefit while I was raising this fund that I had another job that was paying me a salary, and actually sponsoring me to help raise the fund. So, I mean, that's sort of like cheating, but as an entrepreneur, you really start at zero. As a non-entrepreneur or a non-company former CEO, you look at things a little differently, in my opinion.
I've heard from some entrepreneurs that have, raised at Series A, that they feel that now they're not working for their customers, they're working for their investors, their VCs, because they have to answer to that investment. So how do you deal with that as an entrepreneur? You start a business, you're working for your customers, doing what's best for them. If there's a situation where maybe it's not best for the customers, but it's going to make you a ton of money, how should an entrepreneur approach that, and how should a VC view that?
Well, I think you should always listen to your customer. I mean, I hate business plans. I don't like them at all. I think that they're wrong the minute you finish them, and I realistically think that the best way to build a company is to just go out and find what people are looking for, and then make the cheapest, crappiest version you can, and then give it to them, and just see what happens from there as it sort of like organically grows into something. At some point, though, if you do take on investment, you have to accept the fact that you're not having a social enterprise anymore. It's still your company, and we still want to see success. But at the same time, success is no longer measured in, what your growth will be 12 years from now. Success is what the valuation of the company is in 5 years from now. So it's a slightly different way of looking at it. But in my opinion, the entrepreneur and the CEO should always be looking to grow the company. You're just probably going to sell it before you typically would have if you didn't have to raise money.
Definitely. I'm kind of curious, what is the relationship between venture capitalists like yourself and the companies that you invest in? Do you write me a check, Mitchell, and then we chat once a year, or is a VC also a mentor, or what is the relationship like between a VC and the companies you invest in?
It depends. Sometimes a board seat is required. Sometimes there is some actual formal recognition. I think the money I give is the least valuable element. I think the best thing that I can do is help build connections. So if you're starting a company in an industry that I have no connections to and my network has no connections to, I probably won't invest because I'm not adding any value. Do I want to see you every day? I don't know, maybe. Do I need to see you every day? No. But I would want to be sort of the first call the CEO makes when they're looking for help with something. I need to meet, I need to get into this industry, or I need to meet, someone at, this media group. It's like, call Mitch, and I should be able to help. So I think it should be a good relationship. I've seen bad things where, a CEO and its investors suddenly stop getting along, and, at one point someone has to go. But that's going to happen no matter what. I see founders fight all the time. So I think it's typically a good relationship. It's typically where the investor is providing capital, but also simply providing a network. So the more people I know and the more people your investors know, the stronger they are actually. I'd actually take less money, I shouldn't say this as an investor, but I would take less money from somebody who is more helpful than take more money from somebody who's going to provide little value beyond the capital.
You had mentioned that Armory Square is about ready to invest in a company. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how do you look for these companies? Do they come to you? Is it a long-standing relationship? But what is the best way for an entrepreneur to get in front of a VC?
I don't think there's a recognized path. The best way to find me is to come to me through one of my referrals that I trust. Because otherwise, I will take your call. I will meet with you. If you cold call me or blindly email me, I will get back to you. But it might take me a little bit longer, and I might have my associate do a little due diligence before there's any discussions. So the best thing is to know the right people who know the investors. And in the same way, I think when you're raising later rounds of funding, your investor adds value, because to raise more money, you need to have an investor that knows people that'll bring some money to the table. So my value is increased by the fact that I know bigger investors than myself. So it's just, know the right people. There's Angel List, there's Crunchbase, there's CB Insights, there's Mattermark, there's all these sort of like curation websites. I don't think I've ever invested in a company that I found from one of those sources. But we do scan them all the time, and I read every newspaper in upstate New York every day. The online versions, I don't actually read the papers. So like there's like all these ways that we fill the funnel. But if you're introduced to me by somebody I know and trust, you'll talk to me in a few days.
I'm curious, is there a quota of businesses you're looking to invest in, or would you ever go 6 months without investing in a company, or how do you make sure that your plate is full, that you're always investing in businesses?
Well, we're looking personally to make 20 to 25 investments over the next 4 years. There's no quota though. If for 6 months I see nothing but horrible companies, I'm not going to force myself to invest. Because if I don't make my investors money, I need a new job in 5 years. So the real thing is, making sure we have enough deals coming through, and almost figuring out, we have a rule at our shop that we want to see 7 qualified deals each quarter. That doesn't mean I'm going to invest in 7 deals every quarter. That just means these are 7 companies that we feel strong enough that we will do a strong due diligence, potentially offer terms. What we're trying to figure out right now is how many companies do we have to talk to every quarter to get those 7 deals. So our quota is probably going to be something like talk to 500 companies every quarter. And at that point, we will be able to get our 7 qualified deals that could lead into 2 or 3 investments.
Do you think that there's enough qualified businesses in upstate New York for you to invest in over the next 5 years?
I'll be very candid. I also will invest in New York City. So there is deal flow for me if I need it. It's not my first choice, but I see a million deals from New York every week that I could invest in. On top of that, though, I do feel like upstate New York is starting to have the elements of strong deal flow. There's so many great things going on, like the Tech Garden, like Z80, like 43 North, the Innovation Hotspots stuff. I'm intrigued to see what that does. There's a lot of money floating around. The state just launched a $50 RFP, so there's a lot more capital. And we've been doing this now for what it feels like 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. So I feel like we're starting to get to the point where we will see a decent amount of deal flow. But since we opened our doors in April, we've looked at 486 companies, 4 of which have reached our qualified deal status to this point. A lot of them are still also stuck somewhere else in the funnel where we just need to talk to them and stuff. But yeah, I do feel like we will have, I'd say of the 20 to 25 investments, realistically, maybe 30 to 40% will be upstate companies. The rest will be in some of the larger markets. My goal is, though, in a few years when we raise Armory Square Venture Fund 2, that starts to trend up to 50% or 60%. In Armory Square Venture Fund 3 in 5 years, we have 75% of the companies in our portfolio are from upstate New York.
Let's talk nuts and bolts. Let's say I do the family and friends, I do the angel investing, I'm really gaining traction. What do I need to do? You said referral, but pitch deck, a PowerPoint, handwritten letter. What do you look for to be? How do I get you to take me seriously as an entrepreneur?
Slide deck. You need a good slide deck. Be able to answer questions when I talk to you. And here's the best advice I think I can offer, just from my first 3 months of having this fund up and running around here. Hire an attorney that knows what they're doing. Because I have seen some horrible term sheets that no attorney should have ever let their clients do, and that immediately knocks you off my list. I'm not really going to walk you through what a term sheet should look like. and what the difference of shares should look like, or how much money you're going to cash out, in this $2 million fundraise. Like, I'm not paying you to fundraise and then go run the company. That's a big thing. Make sure you have like the right support network. Make sure you have an accountant that knows what they're doing. Make sure you have an attorney that knows what a venture term sheet should look like. Just really do that, and otherwise, a good slide deck and a good presentation is helpful. One thing that you'll be asked to do is, if you're in a financial tech play, I'm going to introduce you to some of your potential customers that I know and listen to you pitch. And then I'm going to go talk to them afterwards and ask them what they think. And if they tell me they don't like you, then I don't like you. So that's one of the big things that we like to do is, introduce you to people that will be your potential clients or could become a client, if we invest and we help, walk you through the door. But if all of them come back and say, that's cool, but, no one would really use that, then no one will really use it.
Awesome. How do you decide what company actually gets the money? Is it a vote? Is it, I think this is a good idea? Does ego or pride or come into play? How does the check exchange hands from a VC to the entrepreneur or the business owner?
Yeah, this is the secret sauce, I guess, of venture capitalists, so I can't share it. We actually have this machine that makes all decisions for us. No, I mean, yeah, like there's not really a science to it. A lot of it is, you talk to as many people as you can. You find out how real this is. You find out how confident you are after multiple meetings with the CEO and the CTO and, whatever other C-level individuals are on the team. And, do I get along with this person? Do I have confidence in this person? Does their product and their pitch work when we introduce them to potential customers? And, what's the total market size? So if your company max value is $50 million, that's not enough for me to invest. I need bigger companies. So at some point we might reach back, and after doing, talking to all the customers and finding out what they'll really pay, what the lifetime value of the customer is, we'll just do a quick TAM assessment and say, yeah, we could probably sell you for $50 million, and unfortunately that's not enough. So there's like these processes we go through, but at the end of the day, we sort of sit down and kind of look at each other and say, like, well, what do you think? Do you want to do it? Yeah, I do. Or, yeah, I'll do it. And we make an investment.
I thought you were going to say you just flip a coin and just head or tail, so 50% I would take that chance. I want to move to Syracuse, Buffalo, kind of more community and location stuff. What can Syracuse learn from Buffalo? What can Buffalo learn from Syracuse? Maybe talk about what you've seen going on in Syracuse and what you see going on in Buffalo.
Syracuse right now is very college-driven entrepreneurship. All of the startup programs seem really focused on college university startups, either being commercializing research or working with students. Rochester is interesting. It's a very siloed city, so they should just learn to talk to each other, because nobody likes to work with each other in Rochester, then they don't like to work with anyone outside of Rochester. That's Rochester, in my opinion, actually has probably the right ingredients to really kill it, just because it's much more of a white-collar city than a Buffalo and a Syracuse. They've got all of this experience in technology companies, whether it be Kodak, Bosch & Lomb, Xerox, Paychex, Paytech. They've got the money, they've got the attorneys that know what they're doing. Their biggest problem is they just don't like to do anything together. Everyone I know at University of Rochester doesn't know anyone at RIT, and they're 15 minutes apart. They should know each other. Buffalo's been an interesting city for me. I've been extremely impressed at the turnout of events. The startup weekends here are huge. Events like this are great, like Z80's killing it right now. There's just like a lot of like this stuff going on. I'd say Buffalo's biggest thing is you guys need to start marketing yourselves more outside of Buffalo. Like Syracuse right now is just doing a very good job at making everyone think they're like doing really, really well. And I don't know if that's like entirely true. But you know, Buffalo, it seems like I come here and there's all these really cool things going on, and when I go back to Syracuse, no one's heard of it. So I think just marketing yourselves would be the best bet. And I think for all three of the cities, and I'm going to throw Albany and Ithaca and Binghamton in there too, would be for us to work together more. To do more cross events with Rochester and Buffalo, or Rochester and Ithaca, or Syracuse and Saratoga. There's a lot of really, really smart people here, but we're all sort of like spread out over like 10 hours of driving. So it would just be much, much better if we figured out more ways to collaborate and do events where everyone was getting credit and everyone was like benefiting from it, rather than having a Rochester event and a Syracuse event and a Buffalo event that all do the same exact thing.
I don't know if Clark is still here, but that's something to consider for Startup Scramble, that element of, you know, it's upstate New York, it's not Syracuse and Rochester and Buffalo, Ithaca, and all these different cities. But I wanted to actually talk about 43 North, and John Spitz left, so we can talk candidly now. But what are your thoughts on 43 North, both as kind of an idea and also from a VC standpoint? Do you think that model makes sense? Do you have intentions to maybe look at some of the companies that win, maybe some of the companies that lost? 43 North in general.
John roped me into judging for the first round. I think I had to look like 180 companies. And now he's roped me in for this round of judging. The first round, there was like there was a lot of crap. Just because I think whenever you get like 2,500, 5,000 applicants for something, 90% of it is always just going to be bad. And that's if you get 90 of them, I think 90% is going to be bad. But I'm sort of intrigued to see like what happens next. Venture capital as an attraction tool seems kind of interesting. I'm not sure what the term sheets will look like, if there's clawback, stuff like that, which would make it less attractive to follow-on investing. But I am sort of more or less sitting back and just kind of like watching this round of 43 North to figure out, what this does look like, what's the quality of the company, what's the type of company, and more or less sitting on the sidelines and watching rather than going to pass any judgment at this point.
It's an interesting assessment. So, like Clark mentioned, Startup Scramble is very grassroots. There's a Buffalo entrepreneur grassroots movement. It's coming more and more above ground. How is Syracuse entrepreneur system organized? Do you see community-driven, individual-driven, or do you have a, say, higher organization or structure or something like that?
Syracuse, I'd say, is more organizational-driven. Center State's CEO is the Chamber of Commerce. It's the Business Improvement District. It's like the higher level chamber for like high dues paying members. It's the Tech Garden, which is an incubator. It's this conglomeration of like 18 affiliations. So everything sort of sits under one roof and like everything runs through it. I don't think that's actually a good sustainable way of doing it. I like Buffalo's sort of community-driven aspect. I come to all these events and I keep meeting new faces, and everyone does something during the day, but they're sort of like doing these startup events like at night. I'm a big fan.
It's hard to drink beer at startup events during the day, but if you're an entrepreneur, I guess you don't have to report to anybody. Here's an interesting question. What superhero or fictional character do you think would make a good VC, and why?
Probably Batman, right? I mean, he runs like Wayne Enterprises, so it's a tech company already. He knows what he's doing.
That's a great answer. And Batman's just a guy with he's got really good tools and really good support. The guy Morgan Freeman behind him. All right. This is the last question I have for you.
Okay.
If Buffalo is to succeed, it needs more of blank. And you can kind of substitute Buffalo, upstate New York, overall. It needs more of what?
Success. I think success begets success. If we have 5 really good companies come out of upstate New York, there will be a ton of Mitchell Pattersons running around looking to invest. And it will also sort of, I was talking to someone about this earlier. You look at New York City and it's really started to become a tech hub. If you went to New York 10 years ago, it wasn't. This idea of startups running around all over Lower Manhattan didn't exist. But over the past 10 years, they've raised money. They've had some small successes, which had entrepreneurs now who have experience. And then more money came on, and venture funds made money, so they were able to raise larger funds. So 10 years later, you have much larger venture capital funds, and you have this deep bench of experienced entrepreneurs who have raised money, have started companies and grown companies. And all of it came from just, the first initial seed funds and the first initial companies having some success. And now they're having a ton of success, and it's, becoming even more, popular. I mean, you go to San Francisco or Silicon Valley, they've had so much success, like everyone knows what you're talking about. Everyone's done like 4 startups at this point in their life. Like everyone knows like 5 VCs. But that's 50 years of success. So I think if there are a few successful companies in the next few years in upstate New York who stay in upstate New York, or at least give credit to upstate New York being how they got to where they are, I think more good is to come.
Awesome. And I had a really cool gift to give you, but I don't have it right here. It's over there. So I'll just explain it. It's a t-shirt, and it's got the Buffalo City seal on it, and it's orange and blue. And I wanted to do the orange, Syracuse Orangemen, and then the Buffalo seal. So speaking on the continued efforts to bring Syracuse and Buffalo together, it was going to be a really cool gesture. I was going to hold it up, and I forgot to bring it over here. So just picture it. I saw Dave Themke came in late. I apologize. Dave, Algonquin Studios, big supporter, Steve, also Algonquin. I want to give you guys a shout out. Dan, Z80, bringing in Fred Wilson August 5th, Tuesday. So that's going to be awesome. That's at Larkin Square. I think that's on Eventbrite there. 12. It's at noon to 1 o'clock, right? It's like a lunch thing. That'll be awesome. Hopefully, see everybody there. Friday, Fika Buffalo, right here. It's a meeting, talking about grassroots Buffalo entrepreneurs. If you're interested in helping the Buffalo entrepreneur community, I would definitely recommend showing it up. It's I think 5 o'clock. It's it's the free get together. It's very, very cool, and it's we're starting to make some changes and some impacts on that way. And now I'm going to open it to questions to you guys. And Scott, hopefully you have some. You posted a very interesting article about venture capital on your blog, so hopefully you read it and maybe we'd have some questions. But any questions for Mitch? Tim?
Leaving the Buffalo and I guess upstate's innovation market, what do you think is required to make it efficient?
I think just what I said before, success. We need a deeper bench of experienced C-level startup folks. We need more capital, and we need better attorneys. There are some good attorneys. If there's an attorney in the room, I'm sorry. We just need more experience. Because up until this point, it's nobody's done this. So there's an investor at a very large venture capital fund in New York City that for the past 5 years has told me, he's like, Mitch, I'd love to look in upstate New York. I'd love to talk to these companies, but I want to pay for their education. So he's like, I don't want to invest in a company where a CEO has just raised $5 million for his first time and watch him go through mistakes that I know another CEO that I can invest in downstate who's done this before just won't make.
Is there an ideal team size for people making pitches to you or for companies that you invest in?
I think it depends on the company. I don't think there's I don't like one founder, but you know, there's no like magic. I will tell you, every team we talk to, we usually find like one more, and you know, sometimes your sales guy really isn't the guy that should be the VP of sales. So you know, sometimes we'll say, well, if you want this money, we've got a VP of sales that we're gonna bring on and add to your team. Or, you know, we've got a CTO that knows this industry and is more qualified. And it's not a knock, just sometimes this guy, you know, you're selling to a specific industry. I can get you a VP of sales that knows that industry up and down, has all the connections, doesn't have to cold call, doesn't have to build their network. I mean, it's a no-brainer in my opinion.
What industries are you connected to?
So we like B2B. I like SaaS, financial tech, education tech, advertising technology, digital media, and then sort of like a disruptive platform. You'll notice software, because we only like software. But we've looked at a lot of food and agriculture software recently, which is pretty interesting. I've never really like seen too much of that, especially like downstate. But upstate, considering agriculture is our biggest industry, there's like some really innovative stuff going on that like has some great potential. We'll look at like commercialized stuff out of universities. I don't think we'll do too much of that. That tends to be a little earlier stage, or just not in our realm. And if you go on armorysme.com, we have like a snapshot that like literally walks you through everything about our fund, like the types of industries, the size of investment we like to make, all that kind of stuff. If you want an investment, the smallest check we'll write is $500,000, and we'd like a company to be raising anywhere between 1 and 4 million. Which one?
So it sounds like you tend towards like the software side of things. If a company's more hardware based, where they're going to actually manufacture something, that's something that you're not very interested in. And if not, who would you recommend they go to, what how they move forward with raising funds?
I mean, so here's my thing. I'll look at a hardware deal if you can show me 60% margins. I think that might be a little difficult to do. I would introduce them to investors I know if I had faith in the idea and the entrepreneur. If I didn't have faith, I wouldn't do that, obviously. But hardware and stuff. And you mentioned the manufacturing aspect. I am not an economic development guy. I'm in the wealth creation department. So I will invest in a company that's worth $100 million with 10 people. Over the company that has 100 people and is worth 10 million. I know that sounds bad, but at the end of the day, I'm in the making money game.
Scott Fenton of StartBuffalo.com. I follow a lot of startups and new VCs, angel investors, like on Product Hunt or Launch.co or something like that. With all these startups coming up, do you think there's a bubble? And like there was in '99, or do you think there is this?
No, and actually, if you guys want to read a blog, Mark Suster has like a fantastic blog, and he wrote an article maybe 2 weeks ago about like the changing VC industry, and like there was a small portion of it about is there a bubble, and realistically, the companies now have much more revenue than the companies in the early 2000s did. They're more validated. The IPO amounts are actually lower, so they're more realistic than 2000 bubble was just nuts. Companies were worth like 150 times revenue, which should never be. These days, it tends to be companies are worth. Facebook's sort of like an anomaly if you think about like they IPO'd, but the majority of companies I know that have IPO'd or have like had big exits have real value. Sometimes the social media stuff can be a little questionable, but they add value in a different way. So no, I don't think there's a bubble. I think some industries, my friend actually works for a venture fund down in the city, and we were together last week, and we were talking about alcohol delivery startups. There's like 50 of them. And I just don't get it. But somehow they're all raising money. Luckily it's not a lot. So I'd say some of these like little minor industries, maybe they're taking advantage of the popularity and success of Uber. So suddenly now everyone wants to do everything, and like get everything delivered, or like push a button and something happens. But I don't see a bubble. Positive thinking.
Outside of bad ideas and poorly constructed term sheets, what is like the most common mistake that you see that would get someone crossed off your list?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like examples. Annoying me with like 75 emails every day with like 15 updates on like everything that just happened in your life for the past 15 minutes. That will just annoy me, and I'm not gonna like give your emails the time of day after that. And that does happen. And I'll tell you, this is something like when I was raising money and someone said no, I took it. When I say no to people, sometimes they get like really mean and like call me stupid and get angry and like storm out of the meeting or something. Just remember that if you're ever raising money again and you're in upstate New York, I'm not going to talk to you. But also, if any of my investor friends talk to you, I'll make sure to tell them about that event. So just don't burn bridges. Just because I don't think it's the greatest idea in the world doesn't mean it's not. I'm wrong a lot.
You said there were 4 companies that you're likely to invest in. Can you tell us about one of them and what?
No. Sorry.
What did they do right?
What did they do right?
Talk about what people do wrong. What was?
They know their industry. They have a real product. They've been able to secure other syndicate partners. So 2 of the deals, we're not leading the deal. We're still writing a fairly large check. But there's another institutional investor putting some cash in, which helps make it. I was talking with someone earlier about this, that like it's sort of a bad thing, but in the venture capital industry, if you showed up at my doorstep and said, hey, I'm looking to raise $3 million, I need another $1, and first round and Graycroft are already in, I'm probably not even going to do too much due diligence. I'm just going to write a check. So that's a great way. If you can bring in another institutional investor, that's great. If you showed up on my doorstep with that, I think that'd be Christmas. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. Otherwise, just they're smart. When we did due diligence and when we had them pitch customers, they left the room and the guys were like, yeah, I would buy that. I would do that right now. So if we can prove you have a good market, you're smart, you seem to know what you're talking about, and you can be attractive to other institutional investors, I think that's what all of the ones that we're talking to right now do have.
This is not about entrepreneurs, it is about venture capitalists. When they think of becoming a venture capitalist is when they have $1 million or when they can raise money, have the skills to raise money.
I don't know. I didn't even know what venture capital was, except for like Wedding Crashers when I was a kid. So it's a little weird. I don't think it's really not an industry that you like show up and like hand in a resume and say I want to be a VC. You sort of like back into it, and suddenly it's like, oh wow, I'm investing in companies and I have $1 million I'm managing. So I don't think that's it. if you can't raise money, you're not going to go very far. So fundraising skills will be needed. But just also just knowing everybody in the tech industry is huge. It's interesting. Like we raised a fund in upstate New York and everything. And while I've only written, like a small, I've invested less, like I think $6 million in all, like over the past few years. My partner's invested like well over 100. I actually know everybody in upstate New York. So the value I add is I can actually create deal flow. Where my partner, you could drop him off up here and they'd write an article about him, but it would just take him a long time. I've had a lot of beers with a lot of people in here. I've had a lot of lunches, a lot of coffees, a lot of phone calls. It's just taken like 6 years to like get to know everybody in upstate New York, and I'm meeting 60 more tonight. No more?
Going off of that last question, how big is your team? What types of people do you have on your team?
So it's my partner's the managing director. I'm junior partner, and we just brought on an associate like a month and a half ago. So that's it. So we're still raising money. Don't repeat that. At the same time, now we're like trying to fill the funnel, and now we've got like hundreds of companies to talk to, and now we've got to figure out who do we talk to beyond like one meeting. And then we got to figure out who do we talk to as a full team meeting with all three of us in the room. And then we got to figure out who do we actually do due diligence on. And then once you get to due diligence, we got to figure out who do we actually take beyond due diligence and like start to talk team or term sheet. So I've done a lot of traveling and a lot of not sleeping and a lot of phone calls. But yeah, I kind of thought like we'd raise the fund and then like that'd be fun, and then like I'd go invest in companies for a little while. But that's not how it works.
Awesome. Those are really great questions. I wish I had thought to ask them myself. We're gonna finish and go to Ulrichs, but real quick, I want to point out a couple of people. Jordan, who is an attorney and is also a 30 under 30 Buffalo member. So Jordan works with a lot of startups in Buffalo at Hatch and Russ. Mark Benefisto, who I apologize, he was supposed to do Woman in Pitch. I don't know if he's still here, but Propel Academy, it's an online entrepreneur school. Check it out. He has emails, sign-up list, and you don't want to speak for him, but he's there to help entrepreneurs reach their goals. Mark Taylor, Gripo, the startup that I work for, check us out. We're on iOS and website, soon to be Android. Gripo is a better way of complaining. It's like a Better Business Bureau, but for the 21st century. Oscar Gradfly just got a shout out from the Financial Times in London, so good job for you, Gradfly. Step Up Buffalo, Emily, always awesome. If you need recommendations for anything to do or eat in Western New York, Step Up Buffalo on Facebook. Lots of great content. And once again, thank you all for coming. We're gonna go to Ulrichs. We'd love for you to join us. It's an awesome time, and we'll see you next month, August 27th, for the next Startup Grind. Thank you.